The UN Global Compact sponsored the 2010 Leaders Summit in New York this past June. If Davos Forum is a meeting for elite capitalists, the UN Global Compact Leaders Summit is for all businessmen who take business responsibilities in society seriously. Today on Heart to Heart, we'll meet with the director of UN Global Compact, Oliver Williams, and learn more about the business ethics of the 21st century. Welcome to Heart. I'm Colleen Park. Many scholars from abroad have been invited to teach during the summer semesters here at the universities in Korea, and today's guest is one of them. Please welcome Oliver Williams from the University of Notre Dame. Welcome.
My pleasure to be here.
Yes, welcome. This is your second visit to Korea, I understand?
Yes, about a year ago I was here just for a week. It was a program sponsored by the United Nations and Kyung-hee University on global citizenship. And that sort of whet my appetite to come back again.
I see. What was your first impression then, and why did it whet your appetite to come back?
Well, you know, when I got off the airplane and was driven along the highway and looked at the great commercial areas here and the large apartment complexes and really the wonderful infrastructure, what struck me is this is a great example of how to create wealth. You know, 200 years ago, Adam Smith, who's sometimes called the founder of capitalism, 200 years ago in 1776, he wrote a book called The Wealth of Nations, or the full title is An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations. And his brilliant insight at the time was, wealth is not gold and silver or natural resources. Gold is human intelligence applied. It's creativity, innovation. And I think that's what you exemplify here in Korea. I mean, what has happened in the last 20, 25 years is amazing. You have created a relatively wealthy society, given people jobs, given people the possibility of a good life. And that really impressed me. I had no idea how well developed Korea was.
All right. Well, that sort of ties into what you are here for this time around, isn't it?
It does. I'm teaching a course on the United Nations Global Compact, and which is kind of a set of ideals for business, particularly businesses working in developing countries.
And what do you mean by set of ideals? We're talking about ethics?
Yeah, what we've come up with in the United Nations Global Compact is 10 principles a company agrees to follow if they join. And those principles concern 4 key areas: human rights, labor issues, environmental issues, and anti-corruption issues.
Very important concepts for a business, and we sort of, I guess, as consumers automatically expect that all businesses will follow that. But it's like, how do you find a lawyer that you can trust? It's sort of like that. But you said it's is it voluntary for these businesses to join the? Yes,
I mean we started out with 40 companies in 2000 when we launched the United Nations Global Compact, and today we have 6,000 in 130 countries. And it's all voluntary. Companies join because they think it's a good idea for their business.
Isn't it? Well, it would be a good idea by looking at it from people like us, but with people who are in business, you always have to deal with unethical things in order to get your business moving. What kind of companies would voluntarily say, okay, I want to lay everything out on the table and I want to do things ethically and do it right and be uncorrupt?
Well, I think companies are realizing that consumers, potential buyers, are interested in the ethical quality of the company. They're interested in the social activities of the company. And so a lot of companies say it's in our best interests, not only to produce a good product or service, but also to be known as a company that has the common good, not just our own private good or profits in mind.
All right. Well, here in Korea, I mean, now you're back a second time, and your appetite was whet before with viewing other things. Coming here with the UN Global Compact, is there a lot to teach, a lot to observe, a lot to fix. What are you finding teaching here?
Well, the course, of course, is at Kyung-hee University, and I've got about 25 students. Half of them are Korean, and the other half are from 7 other countries, countries like China and Saudi Arabia and Germany. And so it's a great spectrum of nations represented. And I think the students are very interested in this globalized economy and how we can move forward, creating wealth, and at the same time being more ethical and fair about how that wealth is distributed.
Korea is still a growing country, and as you've said, I mean, it's grown tremendously in the last 20, 25 years, but it is just in the place where we really have to think about what the UN Global Compact is talking about, isn't it?
Yes, and I think you can be very proud that Korea has 180 companies who have joined the United Nations Global Compact.
Wow.
And we encourage countries to have what we call local networks, where the companies that have joined meet together periodically and work on common projects.
All right.
And so the Korean local network is very active. In fact, I'm speaking to a group of them in a week or two.
How are your classes going? Are you, as you said, you have a like a multinational class, but where do they come from? Are they business students, or what's their background usually?
It's mixed background. I guess most are business, but political science, government majors. One is even a biology major.
Oh.
So it seems to be quite mixed.
All right.
And I'm very impressed. The Korean students are very well prepared, very intelligent, and very active in class.
What's interesting, I mean, interviewing so many people from around the world on our program here, and whenever we talk about education, I always seem to get a very similar response as to the students, their attentiveness, their level, and of course President Obama had mentioned the level of education here in Korea. I mean, I hope we can do and impact the world in better ways, you know, in the future with all these great students that we have. But anyway, so teaching is okay. Do you teach in English in your classes?
Unfortunately, I'm like most Americans. I know one language. I can read several others, but I only can speak
it's
one.
not only English, it sort of has become the global language, so
yeah.
All right. Well, our cameras went out to look at one of Professor Williams' classes here at the Kyung University, so let's follow out. Kyung University is holding a special summer session. Erudite scholars from abroad have been invited to teach here during summer.
Everyone who is on the list here still.
Oliver Williams lectures on business management centered around UN Global Compact.
Well, I think the students are here to learn about the role of business in society. And I think what they're learning is business has a very important role in creating jobs, creating wealth, in producing goods and services that consumers want. But business, particularly if it's a very successful business, has the resources and management skills to try to solve some of the problems in the wider society.
The lecture starts with a display of photographs. One of the 10 rules of the UN Global Compact is regarding human rights and is the topic of the lecture today.
A right is those minimal features that have to be honored so that I can somehow shape a human life. So it's the minimal conditions. Rights are those minimal conditions that are required so that I can be a human being. And that everybody deserves a chance to lead some sort of fulfilling life.
He emphasized that government involvement is crucial in guaranteeing human rights in business. Some international students have come to Kyung University to enroll in this summer session. Students from Germany, Saudi Arabia, and China have come to Korea during summer break to hear the lectures given by the world-renowned scholars.
Well, I just chose this course because I'm very interested in this topic, and in the close future I would like to write my master thesis and in this field, in this area, so that's why I chose it, and I found it very interesting.
The idea in my mind about United Nations Global Compact was a little bit different. I thought it's a contract or something from the United Nations, but now when I sit in class and listen to him, I realize it's an organization and it's not force all the company to join.
Professor Oliver Williams works to increase the visibility of UN Global Compact in Korea. We look forward to his future efforts. All right. Well, you are lecturing at Kyung University on the UN Global Compact, but you're also a board member of the actual, shall we say, group or assembly. You have a great interest in the social responsibility of business corporations, and I guess we should have always had interest in this, but why is this becoming a bigger issue nowadays?
Well, I think one of the reasons is as we globalize the economy, we've created massive amounts of wealth, and you can see that here in this country. You can see it in China. In China, in the last 10 years, 200 million people have been pulled out of dire poverty because of the global economy and free trade. And I think the feeling was in the United Nations, if we are to keep globalizing the economy and allowing free trade, we have to make sure that the benefits are equally distributed, and that human rights, for example, are not violated. That is, multinationals, for example, in some cases, were running sweatshops in the very poor countries. That was making people rich in developed countries, but it was doing more harm than good in some of the poor countries. And then a second reason is we're asking business to voluntarily take on some of the problems in the wider society. Now, in the year 2000, the United Nations, all the nations came together in what was called the Millennium Development Summit. And they laid out 8 Millennium Development Goals, which basically are 8 goals to try to help overcome poverty, particularly in the developing countries. And those 8 goals include, let's try to work at overcoming dire poverty. Let's try to advance the role of women in society. Let's try to decrease infant mortality. Let's try to overcome diseases like malaria and HIV/AIDS. And so a lot of companies have taken on projects where they are trying to solve some of the problems that they didn't cause, but they feel they have the management skills and the wherewithal to help solve some of these broader problems.
Okay. Well, the UN Global Compact celebrated its 10th anniversary last year. Can you tell us about some of the accomplishments? How many of the 8 Millennium Goals? I mean, I don't think that you might have completed even one, maybe fully, but how far has the success come along?
Well, we just had a big meeting celebrating the 10th anniversary of the UN Global Compact in New York City 2 weeks ago. And we had 1,400 representatives there, over 1,000 from major companies throughout the world, and 40 Korean companies had their CEOs there. Wow. In fact, I was invited to join a dinner with those CEOs and included the Secretary General of the United Nations, as you may know, is from Korea, Ban Ki-moon. And I think Korea certainly can be very proud they have such a great leader in Ban Ki-moon of the United Nations and a great advocate of the United Nations Global Compact. But some of the projects, let me just talk about one and then we can, HIV/AIDS, as you know, is a terrible problem in Africa. In sub-Saharan Africa, they figure 30 million people have HIV, and they have no money. They're dire poverty. So Merck teamed up with the Gates Foundation and the government of Botswana to educate and to deliver medicines to those people of HIV and to help build clinics in the rural areas where a lot of the disease is present. So that's one example. We have over 100,000 people on antiretrovirals, that's the medicine for HIV/AIDS, through that program. And that's one example. In Korea now, the local Korean network of companies has a committee where they're studying the Millennium Development Goals and deciding which ones they can help achieve. So I'm very proud of the Korean companies are moving ahead on this.
Oh, what's the advantage of a business voluntarily joining the Global Compact?
There are a number of reasons. For business reasons, it's interesting. Most companies will be quite candid and say, we get reputational capital. We get good reputations, and that enhances our business in many cases because consumers like companies that take on some of these social problems. Another term they use a lot is branding.
Okay.
They want to be associated with these good ideas, and so people in branding, people associate my product with good social activities. So a lot of companies are in it for good business reasons. But I think there are many companies who simply say, it's the right thing to do. We have management skills. We're doing very well in our business.